Because the US under Trump is so preoccupied with China, the Americans want those troops to have a much broader role. Um, they want them to be available, for example, to defend against any Chinese action against Taiwan. Now, that's not what was originally agreed. And for a lot of people in South Korea, that's caused a great unease.
$5 billion. That's what Donald Trump is likely to ask from the latest foreign leader to make his probably quite nervous way to the White House to meet the president. That's Lee Jae-myung, president of South Korea. Trump wants him to pay a lot more for the upkeep of the 30,000 US troops that are stationed in the country. Richard Lloyd Parry is the Asia editor of The Times and joins us. Richard, hello.
Hello there.
Tell us what's on the agenda for today's meeting and who's sort of got more to lose?
Well, both countries have a lot at stake in this relationship. Uh, South Korea has a treaty alliance with the United States since the end of the Korean War in the 1950s. 28,000 or so American troops have been stationed in the country to protect South Korea from North Korean invasion. So clearly that's still very important to South Korea. On the other hand, South Korea is a very important trading partner, strategic partner, a strategic friend in East Asia to the US. So it's not a relationship that either can walk away from. But Donald Trump, since his inauguration, has, of course, with South Korea, as with every other country in the world, been threatening and imposing trade sanctions. There's a deal there which seems to have been made, but has not yet been fully inked and finalised. So among the things they'll be talking about will be the trade deal and also North Korea. I think those are the big items on the agenda.
And what of then this 30,000 troops that have been stationed on the Korean Peninsula? It is likely that Donald Trump is going to say, I'd like you to cough up some more, please.
Yeah, there are two things going on there. One is that Donald Trump has been saying for years that the military alliance with South Korea is unbalanced and that the South Koreans get a lot more out of it. Now, there are different views of that. Some military experts say that that's not true. In fact, because of the local support that South Korea gives to those American troops, it's cheaper to the base them in South Korea than it would be in America. But that's not how Trump sees it. So he's been applying pressure on all his allies to do more, to spend more on their own defense. And in South Korea's case, he's going to ask them to contribute a lot more to the upkeep of those troops. Now, they already, in the last agreement that was made before Trump was elected this time, South Korea agreed to pay $1.2 billion. So it's not a small amount of money, but there may be demands for more. Separately from that, though, something's going on because the American troops there have always been there really just for one reason, to deter against North Korea and defend against any invasion. Now, because the US under Trump is so preoccupied with China, the Americans want those troops to have a much broader role. They want them to be available, for example, to defend against any Chinese action against Taiwan. Now, that's not what was originally agreed. And for a lot of people in South Korea, that's caused a great unease. Because if you've got these American troops to see off North Korea and defend your borders, that's one thing. But if they're there potentially for use against China, then that obviously affects your role with Beijing and places you potentially in a vulnerable situation vis-a-vis China. So that's another very complicated debate that's going on. Lee Jae-myung, the South Korean president, has been in Japan. When he was there, he indicated that he didn't like this idea. But of course, like every other world leader, he's got to get on with Trump. Trump likes flattery. He likes people who make him feel good about himself. And I'm sure that Lee's advisors have been closeted with him, trying to find ways of doing exactly that.
Yeah, we know that those meetings in the White House can go south quite quickly, can't they? Whether that was what happened with President Zelensky or even the South African president who was sort of ambushed by that photo slideshow and news articles. How will the president of South Korea have been preparing? And presumably he would arrive braced for something unexpected to happen potentially.
Yes, I don't know. I mean, Zelensky is maybe a special case. The South African president, I don't think anyone really saw that coming. So it can go wrong, as you say. I mean, one thing Lee Jae-myung has been doing this weekend was to meet with Shigeru Ishiba, the Japanese Prime Minister. And we're told by Lee's people that they talked about the forthcoming meeting with Trump. Now, Ishiba's in rather a similar situation because he's got a lot of American troops doing an important job of protecting Japan as well. He's always got on rather well with Trump, despite not obviously having a lot in common with him in terms of personality. So he may well have shared a few tips. I mean, what I think Lee will be doing is trying to be reassuring to Trump. Lee Jae-myung comes from a left-wing progressive background in South Korean politics. In the past, in opposition, he's made remarks deploring big military exercises between the US and South Korea. He wants to engage with North Korea. Um, so he will want, I think, first of all, to reassure Trump that he's a practical, business-minded leader, not a kind of radical, not a an unpredictable lefty. But the North Korea issue, of course, is interesting because Trump has been closer to uh, Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, than any other American president in history. And he still sometimes expresses a kind of sense that there's unfinished business there. He didn't get the deal he wanted with Kim Jong-un. I'm sure he would like one. And that may be something where Lee Jae-myung, who also wants to engage with North Korea, can offer to help out and to play some kind of intermediary role. But all this is speculation at the moment. I mean, not surprising, Lee's people, don't want to spoil any surprises and any tactics they've got in store for dealing with the unpredictable American president.
Well, Richard, thank you for laying the groundwork out really to sort of set the scene ahead of that meeting. Thank you very much. That's Richard Lloyd Parry, the Asia editor of The Times.